What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's been a really rough start for the Penguins so far this season. It's not necessarily gone the way that I think the Penguins and their fans had hoped, but we're going to take a look at the Penguins here in today's video. Hold on, I just had a quick issue. There we go, that's better. So you guys hopefully can see that. There we go. What's going on, YouTube? So today we are talking about the Penguins and their situation so far this season. It hasn't been great for the Penguins. Things have not gone well for this team. Things have obviously not gone according to plan. Guys, I apologize, having some some issues here with the camera and things like that. All right, that should be a little bit better. Yeah, so the Penguins, I mean, I really am surprised with how bad they have started. I knew it was going to be a rough season for the Penguins, but I didn't think it was going to get to this point of where we are genuinely talking about the Penguins potentially missing the playoffs in a way we really didn't expect them to. Now, the reason I say that is the teams around them have started off pretty good. And, you know, we talk about this every year. We talk about, especially in really up until until the beginning of the next season, which is going to be 2024, January 1st of 2024, people just disregard everything before that. And I think that's kind of silly. And my saying is, and I'm sure you've heard of this before, teams don't win seasons in October, November, and December, but they can definitely lose them. And I look at the Penguins right now as a team right now that could potentially lose their season in October, November, December. And it might not come across right away. We might be sitting here December 1st, January 1st, saying Pittsburgh's still in the hunt. But what happens when we get into the end of February, come trade deadline, March, and then eventually April? The Penguins are where they were last season, a couple of points from making the playoffs. And you look back on certain games, ooh, yeah, we needed 2 points in that one. We let that one slip away. Oh, yeah, we lost that game. Probably shouldn't have let it go to overtime, and we let that one slip away. Oh, that game against the Ducks back in October. Talk about a nightmare. That was a nightmare for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that's the game that we are going to focus on today. I'm really disappointed I did not get to actually watch that game. But holy smokes. Penguins fans, what do you guys think right now? Because that game was concerning to a level that I really am speechless. This is the epitome of a Penguins game. The Penguins look okay through the first two periods. They're hanging in there. Maybe they're not playing their best hockey. You know there's more left in the tank, but they find a way to survive. They fight to the game. Maybe they might even score a goal late, and then all of a sudden they give up 1 or 2 goals or let the team tie the game to send it to overtime, or just very inopportune goals going in against them. And then there is that Ducks game, which is the catastrophically worst situation. A 5-on-3 for the Penguins. They score. Then, coming out of the box shorthanded, Mason McTavish, oh, that's probably not a guy you want going down on a breakaway, and he scores. So as soon as Pittsburgh tied that game when it was a 5-on-3 power play, it was still a 5-on-4 power play, and as McTavish is coming out of the box, scores a massive goal. Mind you, it wasn't a shorthanded goal. It was a power play goal because he was coming out of the box. Nonetheless, disaster for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And looking at where they are in the Metropolitan Division standings right now, they currently, according, this is from ESPN, they've played 9 games. Everybody in this division has played either 8, 9, or 10 games, and the lone team playing 10 games at this point is the Devils. Everybody else has played at least 8 games. So you can't say, well, the Penguins haven't played enough or this or that. No, that's not the case. They have played pretty much as many games as everybody else. They are behind Columbus, Philadelphia, and Washington. And in my opinion, they should be somewhere closer to where the Islanders are. I think the Islanders are a good barometer right now for the Penguins, and Penguins fans may laugh at me when I say that, but the reality is I think that's around where we expect them to be, right? The top 3 are playing like the top 3, the Rangers, Devils, and Hurricanes. Then there's that like secondary tier with like the Islanders, the Penguins, and maybe the Capitals. Well, the Penguins aren't there right now. They're the lone team that isn't where they're supposed to be. And looking at that 3-6 record, That is quite concerning. And what's even more concerning is they have played 6 games already at home. They've only managed to muster up a pair of wins in those 6 games so far. That's got to get better for the Penguins because the schedule, as it gets more difficult, we'll talk about this in a minute, as their schedule gets more difficult, they start playing more games on the road, things are not going to get easier. Now, taking a look here, this is Hockey Reference, so shout out to them. Really good source. So looking at the record, we showed that already. We showed where they sit in the Metro, dead last. Now, again, that's only by 2 points, but still, they're behind Columbus and Philadelphia. I think there's reason for alarm bells there. Then, you take a look at their goals for. 26 goals this season. That's better than San Jose, but that's not saying much for a team that scored 1 goal per game. So they're scoring some goals, but they're giving up a lot of goals too. Now, technically, their goals against is better than their goals for, but we all know the situation. It's the inopportune goals. It's the goals where you're like, if you're Pittsburgh, you give up the goal and it knocks the wind out of you. And that's the thing that's really concerning here. It's not that they're giving up goals, it's when they're giving up these goals. It is heartbreaking, gut-wrenching goals that twist the knife in the Penguins' stomach. And that's the difference here right now for the Penguins. So even though it looks like, yeah, it can improve, but it's a little below average in terms of the NHL, it is the time of the goals being scored that makes it so catastrophic. So looking at the Penguins here, again, stats that are going to kind of hide their issues with goaltending and defense. Apologize for all the ads, guys. That's ads on Hockey Reference. They got to make money too. So their power play percentage is not good. It's 14%. That was supposed to be a strong attribute, right? With Carlson coming in, Letang in, Gensel healthy, but that has not worked out. Oh yeah, and Malkin and Crosby, those guys, I almost forgot to mention them. Now, what's surprising is their penalty kill is actually above average. So they're actually getting pretty good help from the penalty killing units, which not necessarily a huge shock when you look at this roster, because you look at some of the guys here, Drew O'Connor, Rickard Rakell, Nola Chari, Jeff Carter. Those are defensively minded players, right? Matt Nieto, he's a penalty killing specialist. So it's not a real surprise that they're good there. But here is where things really start to go in the wrong direction for Pittsburgh. Goalies. So an .893 save percentage for Tristan Jarry. Not great, but it could be worse. Now, again, that's through 7 games, but that's enough of a sample size to say he's got to be around 900, and he is below 900. That's probably where we expected him to be, though, in all honesty. Now, of course, the kicker here is Alex Nedeljkovic has the best goalie save percentage on the team, but of course he got injured, which made them call up from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Magnus Hellberg, who I saw him in that game the other night. He does not look good. Like, he is just not a good goalie. And I like the guy. I really want the best for players. I'm never going to sit here and say, oh, that guy sucks. He should be, demoted, this, that. I'm not like that. But in all honesty, I've never really liked his numbers. And he's been around for a long time. But anyway, their goals against average right now is around 3 goals per game. And their penalty kill, their save percentage is also not great. It's under 900. Which actually is surprising, but I think a lot of that's inflated from Nedeljkovic. Now, here's another stat that I wanted to look at. Not a stat, the standings. Because this is where their schedule is going to test them to where I think these numbers are going to look worse than they already are. And that's kind of the bad news here for the Penguins. So their schedule so far, you look at these teams, Chicago, Washington, Calgary, Detroit is the first team that you're like, all right, that's a respectable loss because the Red Wings are playing very good right now. They are very hot right now. St. Louis isn't good. Dallas is a good team. Colorado's a good team. And then Ottawa and Anaheim are middle of the pack. Ottawa's starting to heat it up a little bit, but that's a winnable game if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins fan base. The expectation is to beat a team like Ottawa. So realistically, the only 3 teams they've played are Dallas, Colorado, and Detroit. 3 of their first 9 games were games where they were probably the underdog, the true underdog in those games, right? From a outside perspective. Now you look at their schedule coming up. Now, the good news is they're going to be playing teams that aren't playing well, and they have a chance to get redemption on Anaheim. They go to the West Coast road trip to start November. They play San Jose, Anaheim, and the Los Angeles Kings. All three of those could be winnable, but the Ducks and the Kings are starting to play well. The Ducks are doing well on this road trip on the East Coast. They're going to be heading home to play Pittsburgh. That's going to be a big game for them. The Kings are playing really well. They can score goals. That's going to be a big test for the Penguins' defense and goalies because the Kings can score, and they can score in bunches. They have a lot of depth there, so that's a team to watch for. Then they play Buffalo. I think Buffalo is a tough out. Their schedule is a little bit weird. They've played a lot of good teams. Their system is really good, kind of the contrary to Pittsburgh. That could be a tough game for the Penguins at home. Then they play Columbus, who they should beat. And then we get to the schedule at the end of the month, which is going to be the real barometer heading into December for this team. So this is their schedule after that Columbus game on the 14th. So the last 2 weeks of November, they played the Devils, who are good. Carolina is ripping it up right now. This past week, they've really turned things around. They had a slow start. They are coming into form. The Vegas Golden Knights are the Vegas Golden Knights. They're mowing teams over, other than the Blackhawks in their first loss. The New York Rangers, that's always a tough game for the Penguins, right? That's a rivalry team, a geographical rival. Probably going to be a bunch of Ranger fans in Pittsburgh. That's going to be a big game. Then they play Buffalo again. Again, a team that's maybe not figured everything out yet, but I could see that record starting to turn around this month. They are a team to watch for. Then they play the Maple Leafs. They're a pretty good team. The Predators are so-so. That's a winnable game. And then they play Tampa, and then they play a back-to-back with Philadelphia to start December. That is going to be the pivot point. If they are ripping it up, heading down to that Tampa, Florida trip in the beginning of December, which I'll actually be in Florida that week where they play Tampa and Florida, but I'll be at Disney World. I won't be down there for hockey games, but I digress. That first back-to-back with the Flyers is going to be the barometer for where this team is. That is going to be the, what is that? That is the 20, they'll be at the end of that home and home with the Flyers. They will be 24 games through the season. We will be more than a quarter of the way through the season for the Penguins. We are going to get a real good idea of where this team is at. And everything we're talking about right now in terms of their numbers and how things might be inflated through the first couple weeks and this and that, that's all going to be kibosh at the end of November. Now we are at Thanksgiving, and American Thanksgiving. I have to preface that. We're going to be at American Thanksgiving, and we're going to be asking ourselves at this point, and a lot of GMs do this, hey, listen, where do we stand right now? And what can we do in terms of maybe making a roster move? Is there anything we can do to maybe improve this team? So here's what I'm thinking. Now, again, some of you guys probably hate when I play this armchair GM sort of game, but I think it's something to look at. So the first thing I'm looking at with the Pittsburgh Penguins is the lack of depth scoring. That's a big problem for this team right now. So looking at some of the guys in the lineup, so Matt Nieto has still yet scored a point. He's played in all 9 games for the Penguins, held off the score sheet. I know he's more of a defensive player, but he has not played well. Pierre-Olivier Joseph got called out in the preseason by Mike Sullivan. He has been held to 0 points so far this season. Jeff Carter, Nola Chari, all held with 0 points this season. You want me to continue? Ricard Raquel, Chad Roweedle. They've each respectively played 8-9 games. They each have 1 point. Now again, those aren't your offensive dynamos. You're not expecting them to score. But the first guy that we see that actually has scored really any points, there's only 6 players on this team that have 6 or more points this season. And they're the expected suspects. Erik Karlsson with 6 points, which is low considering what he did last year at this point. Riley Smith, he's been a great addition. Brian Rust, Jake Gensel, Sidney Crosby, and Malkin. No surprises there. But I'm going to show you guys just where this team is at because I am quite concerned about the depth of this scoring. And there is genuine reason for concern right now in Pittsburgh at this group. And I'll show you, look at this. This is not good, okay? This is not enough depth scoring for a Penguins team that's looking to make the playoffs. there is not enough depth here. And when the power play isn't playing at the level we expect it will be at some point, somewhere between 20 to 25%, which would be fantastic, that is where we're hoping this power play gets to at some point. But as of right now, that isn't clicking. They're not scoring a ton 5-on-5, and their defense is not that good and reliable, and neither is their goaltending. So my assumption is, depending on what happens with other teams around the league, if I'm the Penguins, I'm calling Steve Yzerman. I know that's a little bit of a scary thing because we know how Stevie Y can be. I'm talking to Steve Yzerman, and I'm asking about some of the players on his roster. And some of those players are guys that could be a great fit for the Penguins. They're going to add maybe some scoring depth to this team. Their contracts are fairly cheap, and the Penguins need cheap deals right now. You could thank former GM Ron Hextall for some of those. There are a couple guys in Detroit right now that I think the Penguins might be able to take off their hands because they are loaded right now. The Red Wings have so many guys in their roster that they might be able to pluck some guys out of there. Now, some of these are a little bit far-fetched, but some of them actually could work. And the problem is for the Penguins, I'm sure a lot of you will say this, and you've said this to me in the past. Listen, Kevin, the Penguins don't have any assets to give to these other teams. They don't have anything. Yeah, we'd love to get a player like this, but we don't have the assets to get the deal done. And I totally understand that. But the decision has already been made from Ron Hextall, from the moves they made last year. That move has already been made for them. They don't have a ton of draft capital. They don't have a ton of prospects. They have to go for it now. Like Kyle Dubas's decision or his moves that he was going to make were basically already made for him. The direction of this team was made by Ron Hextall at last year's trade deadline. And that's going to continue forward this season. So some of the players that I look at in Detroit that really have my attention are Jonathan Berggren. Jonathan Berggren is a Red Wings prospect. He played really well for the team last season. Berggren's numbers have not been great this year. He's only played in 2 games. His average ice time so far this season is a little under 10 minutes a game. He's a guy that I expect will get more ice time as the season moves along. But again, there's nobody like. Unless they're able to move one of those guys that I'm about to mention, Jonathan Berggren is definitely one. If I'm the Penguins, I'm trying to see what it would cost. And he reminds me a lot of like young Kasperi Kapanen. I know Penguins fans don't like the idea of another Kapanen coming in, but Kasperi Kapanen when he was with the Leafs, that's the kind of guy I really see a lot of comparables to, and I think that's a guy that the Penguins could really use, and he could jump into the top 6 instantly and add some speed and a little bit of skill to that roster, and it seems like he's being underutilized in Detroit. Another guy, Robbie Fabry, he's been injured a lot, so that's the concern with Fabry, but that's maybe where the Penguins can step in, and they're taking a chance on a guy that has had a lot of health issues, hasn't been able to stay in the lineup, and I think that's something where the Penguins can kind of take advantage of that. And that opens up the roster for the Red Wings and helps them out, and it might not cost them all that much. Another guy I look at, now this one could be a little bit tough with how he's been playing recently, but Joe Veleno. Joe Veleno is playing some of the best hockey of his life right now in the NHL with the Red Wings. He's got 6 points in the first 10 games for the Wings. He's got already 5 goals, and a lot of those scored last week. So his value is pretty high at the moment, which is probably why they won't get a deal done for him right now. But that's another guy that I would look at. You know, I think this is a team that the Red Wings realistically could trade both of a guy like Klim Kostin, Christian Fischer, Jonathan Berggren. I mean, I don't think they want to trade Michael Rasmussen, but that would be a really good pickup if he was available for the Penguins. You know, the Penguins have bad contracts here. Like, Jeff Carter has not played well. Rickard Rakell has not played well. So you add a guy potentially down the middle like a Rasmussen or a Joe Veleno. Those are guys that would instantly add credibility to your middle 6 center group. And they lost a lot the last couple years. They lost Teddy Bluger. They've lost guys they've picked up at the deadline. So this is a move that the Penguins are trying to make just to get back to a spot where they have some competency in the lower 6 of the lineup. And you know, like I said, the price right now for a guy like Joe Veleno is going to be high, so maybe that's something you would wait till maybe the deadline, see how things kind of play out. But I don't know if the Penguins have till the trade deadline to figure this out. So That is my assessment of the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is a team right now that needs help. And if, we know teams don't typically make moves until at least even think about trade rumors. We haven't talked about trade rumors in a couple months. We aren't going to talk about legitimate trade rumors probably until after American Thanksgiving, which is next month. We still have a while till then, probably another 3 or 4 weeks. And I think teams at that point, the quarter mark of the season, are really going to start figuring out, okay, this is what we have here. Is this something that is going to be sustainable, or is this something that we need to make a genuine change and we really need some moves? And I think the Penguins, we already know what this team is. It's just a matter of finding the opportunity for them to make a move. So with that all said, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the Pittsburgh Penguins? Is this something that can be corrected, or do you think this is something that kind of looks like a lost season for the Penguins? Or do you think Kyle Dubas can get the competency up to a point where we could see them make a good move and maybe the first real hockey trade other than Erik Karlsson coming for the Penguins? Guys, make sure to check out our Goal Line Hockey shop. That Puck is Back promotion will be coming to an end very soon, so definitely jump on that. And also, become a member today. We're trying to grow that member community, so I will be doing a Q&A live stream specifically for members. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure to check that out. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.